Here's 100 things that don't make sense from a bunch of Mario games, but let's start with Mario Odyssey. What's the deal with these bridges in Bowser's Kingdom? On the surface, they seem fine, until you realize that the supports for them just don't attach to anything and are simply floating. Or what about this door in New Donk City? Oh wait, not that door. This door that leads to a giant pit. I guess make sure you don't take the wrong exit when you leave from work here. How come Mario can submerge his entire body in ice cold water up to the bottom of his head and he doesn't start to freeze? But if I move an inch forward, only then he starts to lose health and freeze from the cold. So it's almost like the process of him swimming makes him freeze rather than the coldness of the water itself. How come when you use a painting to teleport to a different kingdom, the Odyssey will already be at that different kingdom too, even though no one flew it over? And Cappy came with you through the painting as well, so it's not like he was flying. Plus, there is no mention of any autopilot mode, so does this thing have like a teleport feature or something? Also, how come the Odyssey has human chairs inside of it? Like, wasn't this ship made by the residents of Cap Kingdom, and these guys just float around, they don't ever sit down. I mean, Cappy himself doesn't even use the seats, and there isn't any chairs in Cap Kingdom either. Why are the Toads operating a shop in a kingdom with literally no residents in it? That's business 101 for ya. Don't open up a shop in Lost Kingdom. Plus, I don't even know why they're charging in local currency. Like, why do you even need these purple leaves? Just charge in coins. And also, why do the Toads even sell you moons to begin with? I'm trying to save Peach here, guys. Don't withhold valuable power moons that I need to use for the Odyssey to start again. I'm trying to save your princess. Are you really trying to make a quick buck off your boss's misfortune? Or do you just not like Peach to begin with? The whole reason you collect power moons is to power your ship so you can fly to the next kingdom. But then how come I can fly back to any previous kingdom without any fuel or power, whatever it is? I could take a whole joyride day trip around all the previous kingdoms, but as soon as I want to go to a new kingdom I haven't been to, Cappy's all like, nope, we need more power first. How is Toad listening to headphones? First of all, he doesn't even seem to have ears on him, and secondly, he's wearing them on his hat. As shown in the Mario Bros. TV show, that is a hat and not his head. So do his ears look like this or something? How do you fly into the Wooded Kingdom using the Odyssey? I mean, there looks to be this giant dome around the entire place which creates this secluded environment. And then if you want to say, oh, there's like doors or something that must have opened and you were let in, well then how did these bunnies get in? Because they're trying to steal this kingdom's resources, so surely they weren't let in. When you hit a thwomp from the bottom with the drill suit, you don't take damage because of the drill. But then why do you take damage when you drill the top of the thwomp? Or why do the flagpoles still have a castle-looking base here? You're not walking into a castle at the end of the level anymore, so why not have the flag match the huts in this kingdom? In the Invisible Badge training course, how come you can see your shadow on the background even though you're invisible, but in literally every other course, you can't see your shadow at all with that badge? I'm even standing in front of the same background and still nothing. How is Mario able to like run up this ladder in the Magma Mines level? Slow it down, he's not even climbing or anything, just running up the wall of this vertical cliff essentially like he's Spider-Man. How come at the beginning they just leave the Wonder Flower on this pedestal for anyone to grab? In fact, throughout the whole game, these flowers are just sitting there that will cause severe consequences to the entire world when someone touches them. So put that thing in a box or a cage before someone, does that. And also, how are these wonder effects determined? Like, how come when Bowser touches the Wonder Flower, he gets a whole giant deadly arrow airship to wreak havoc with, but when I touch it, a giant spike ball chases me. Or when I touch it in an airship, Bowser again somehow gets a laser cannon that shoots at me. These flowers are clearly rigged or something. Why does Bowser get all the good ones? In this game, it clearly establishes that Toad's mushroom thing is his head and not a hat. So then when you're playing as a Goomba and all the other characters have their hats or egg on the Goomba, why does the Toad one use the mushroom part of him? So if it's not a hat, then did you like rip off Toad's head and stuck that body part on top of a Goomba? That's horrifying. How come a Yoshi can ride another Yoshi, but a Yoshi can't ride another Yoshi that's already riding a Yoshi, or a Yoshi that has a Yoshi riding on that Yoshi can't ride a Yoshi that doesn't have a Yoshi riding on it? The drill power-up protects you from spiked objects. But then how come you still get damaged by these spiky balls if you touch them, but if I'm an elephant, then I don't get hurt when hitting them? And he doesn't even have spiked drill armor. So elephant skin is tougher than a metal drill? To get the royal seed at the end of World 3, you have to do all these trials as a test from this Master Poplin. But just like, why? Mr. Poplin guy, I'm out here trying to save your world, the Flower Kingdom. So then why are you withholding these royal seeds from me that I need to stop Bowser from destroying your world? Why did I even need to do World 3? Just give me the royal seed. How come in Moon Kingdom there are no stars in the sky, but if you travel to literally the other part of the moon, then you'll see an entire solar system all of a sudden? Or you ever wonder what's up with the bunnies in this giant carrot in that kingdom too? The only entrances are these small holes, yet they somehow fit an entire massive airship inside of here. Why do they use this sign to show that quicksand is deadly? Now you may think that a skull is a good visual to use, until you realize that every single resident in this kingdom has a skull as their face. So this would be like the equivalent of just having a normal face on this sign in any other kingdom. When you go into the door in the Flatiron building in New Donk City, why does it lead to just some random alleyway? It's not even like you're coming out the back of the building, because this building is entirely surrounded by streets with no other visible exits. So is this door some sort of portal? Speaking of the Metro Kingdom, what's with the inside of the New Donk City Hall? Like, who makes this giant building and then just hollows out the interior? So what is the purpose of this whole structure when there's nothing inside? This is prime real estate. This place has no rooms, it's just these walls that you can even see outside from. In the squid capture, you can move fairly fast by propelling yourself with this stream of water. But then how come you can't move at all when you're on a solid surface? The only thing that is touching the ground is the water. So you're trying to tell me that the friction of the water and the ground is what's stopping any sort of movement? No way. How come Mario doesn't just like steal all the power moons and items from the shops? I mean, he literally has a mind control device in the form of Cappy. Just control one of the shopkeepers and take all the stuff. Or if they're wearing a hat, then just knock off the hat first, like you do with many other enemies in this game. When Mario first gets Cappy, why does he just throw him away like that? Luckily, Cappy coincidentally has like a boomerang effect, but Mario didn't know this. They met like 2 seconds ago, and he already tried to throw him away. How come Bowser's footprints show his bare feet, but in literally every instance that you see him in the game, he's wearing shoes? Does he just not want to get his shoes dirty or something? Is he just like somebody holding their flip-flops as they walk on the beach? Because that would be a pretty hilarious sight to see from Bowser. And also, why does his footprints even appear in just this short little area? Like, did Bowser jump off his airship, then take off his shoes, then walk a few steps, and then realize he doesn't need to walk, so he jumped back onto his airship? Because that would be the only logical conclusion from this. How come if you crouch and run into an electric wire, you don't actually get electrocuted? It's not even like you're crouching under it because you're clearly phasing right through the electricity. Or why is this planet already covered in trash and litter when it was born like 2 seconds ago? That has to be the fastest pollution rate I've ever heard of. Like, where did it come from? How come some planets have a gravitational pull while others don't? And it's not even like the size of the planet has anything to do with it, because these tiny planets have gravity while this massive one doesn't. Especially when you have these two planets right next to each other, but you get pulled towards the smaller one for some reason. And also, given that some of these planets don't have their own gravity, why then do you still fall downwards when you fall off of them? I thought you're in space, so you should be floating. Like, what is pulling you down in this case? Because if it was the planet that you were on, then you should be pulled towards that planet. When you're using the ice flower, you just freeze the water to make ice, right? So then how do you also make ice when walking on lava? If you were to freeze lava, then it would just turn back into a volcanic rock. Lava doesn't create ice at all. How does Peach send you letters with one-ups in them as you progress in the story? Isn't she a prisoner captured by Bowser? Like, what kind of prisoner can just send letters with useful items in them that will help the person who's trying to save the prisoner? How come the entrances to the galaxies have weird inconsistencies between the outside and inside of these buildings? Like, the kitchen, for example, has this nice window to view the stars, but on the outside, it's just bricks all around the structure. Or what about the fountain that has these lower holes here with water flowing outward and these upper holes with water flowing in, but on the outside there's only the upper ones with water flowing in the opposite direction? How come the islands in this game just float on the water's surface? I mean, islands are just land masses surrounded by water. They all connect to the earth underneath them. But the ones here are somehow buoyant and just float. This is made of sand here. How is this sand not breaking apart and sinking? Why does this robot have a limited time for you to clear her planet? You're doing her a favor for free, but you have to do it quick for some reason. Worse than that though, is if you fail, then the trash somehow comes back. Like, she puts it back there if you don't clean it up fast enough. What is wrong with this lady robot person thing? Why do Goombas just not hurt you if you stand at the edge of a platform? Seriously, it's like they're scared of the edge or something, like they have vertigo and don't want to get too close. They couldn't care less about killing Mario suddenly. How does touching the flagpole revert the wonder effect on all these houses? If it's that easy, then why do you even need Mario's help in the first place? Just go over and touch the pole yourself. These poplins are the laziest species I've ever seen. How does the unraveling of these mummies work? Like, you pull their cloth from the bottom, but then they get unraveled from the top down. Shouldn't this be the other way around, where they get unraveled from the bottom upwards? When Mario enters a pipe, his hat flies off, falls down for a bit, and then he reaches back to grab it. But then how come if he enters an underwater pipe, the hat still falls at the same speed, even though it's underwater? Shouldn't it like float around for a bit, not just fall? When you blow up Bowser's ship thing, Mario just kinda jumps off the 2D plane into like a 3D space, I guess. Like, what? Mario, you're saying you could have done this the whole time? There have been a bunch of instances that I wish I could have jumped down between planes, but you didn't decide to use this power then? Come on, Bowser, really? A big glowing red button that self-destructs this entire ship? I mean, I know it's common for supervillains to have these sort of buttons, but I thought you were better than this. What determines what you can and can't dig into with the drill power-up? And it's not even like if the material is diggable or something, because I can drill into tile floors, stone pillars, or even mushrooms. Like, why can I dig into this stone structure, but I can't drill into this tower or other random blocks too? And speaking of the drill, how come you can't drill underwater? Like, seriously, sand is the perfect material to dig in. Even if you're already gravity drilling on the shore, as soon as you hit the water, you just get popped out. How come some flowers can talk in this game while others can't and are just like normal flowers? Like, this is a very serious question, guys. I need someone like MatPat from Game Theory to solve this issue and go into the deep lore of flowers in Mario Wonder. Not to mention, these flowers can fly too. How come 1-ups are back in this game? Like, really, why don't you lose coins like it was in Odyssey? That was way better. This has to be confusing to Mario too. Like, in one adventure, he could just die as much as he wants, whereas now he can get a game over. How does Mario's hat stay on while swimming? Look how fast he's going too, while his hat looks like glued on somehow. And don't even get me started with how the princess's crowns stay on either. Mario can't breathe underwater in this game, and yeah, that makes sense to me. So given that, how come Mario can breathe in space when on the moon? I think it would only make sense to have a similar air meter. I mean, even the other humans need astronaut helmets, so Mario's gotta be like superhuman. And speaking of the moon, how come this place has, well, moon gravity on the surface, but when you go into the caves, you're just back to normal gravity again? And it's not like you're closer to the core of the planet or anything, because the exit is literally way up here. So one side of this cave exit is moon gravity, and just outside of that is normal gravity. How come Peach is just hanging out with one of Bowser's minions, aka this giant dragon? Like, I know we've already defeated him, but just look at the guy. He's eyeing down Peach like he's ready to get back up. I mean, Peach, take some precautions at this point. No wonder you're always kidnapped. How come Mario doesn't just, get on Yoshi's back anymore? These two have been friends for a while, and this is how it's always gone. But now Mario has this fancy new capture ability. He's trying to like show it off more or something. But I'm sure Yoshi is not a fan of being mind controlled. Now you can even make him jump off a ledge and kill himself by himself. Now that is brutal. What is with the clouds in this game? Like, how come you can stand on certain ones, yet you'll fall right through others? I'd assume this would be pretty frustrating to deal with if you lived here, not knowing which surfaces are solid. How come most of these kingdoms are surrounded by these giant pits? Like, it's funny how all of these places just seem to be in the middle of nowhere. And if you want to say that this is just the landscape, then what's New Donk City's excuse? You're just on this big man-made pillar with a bunch of buildings and streets on top. There's even streets that just go nowhere, saying it's under construction. Oh yeah, right, that road is never getting finished. But then since there are these pits all over here, how do the residents of these kingdoms even leave these little areas? Like, you got here from the Odyssey, but most kingdoms don't have flying vehicles, with a few exceptions. So are all these residents just stuck here for life? What is with this weird little park in Metro Kingdom? It's named after Mayor Pauline, but like, how do the residents even get over here? You had to use the capture ability, but as for everyone else, are they just stuck here now? There's not much to do here either. It's just a patch of grass on a rooftop. Horrible place to play football. Why is there all these random electric wires all over this game? Even in places like Cascade Kingdom where electricity isn't even invented yet. There's nothing that needs electricity here. And then there's even wires that go all the way back to Cap Kingdom too. Jeez. Why is there two different versions of bunnies in this game? There's these normal tiny bunnies that you chase, but then there's these weird giant mutated talking bunnies that work for Bowser. So what is up with these guys, given that normal bunnies exist in this universe too? Where do all the star bits come from that you shoot? I know you, the player, are actually shooting it, but in the universe, is there like a giant Wii remote that's hiding behind the camera that also follows Mario? And how do you shoot these star bits through walls, like in this tiny building, for example? In the mission where you first save Luigi in the mansion, how do you actually leave the mansion? Because the only way you can access that place is by using the Boo power-up, which allows you to go through these grates. But you have to get rid of that power-up to talk to Luigi, and there's no other Boo power-ups in this area. Meaning, now both of you are stuck in this cage here. But another thing, so if the stars are actually able to teleport you back to the observatory, then why is Luigi stuck all the time in the first place? He always just finds power stars, but then needs you to rescue him. Why don't you just teleport back like us using the stars? How come Peach doesn't try to do anything while her castle and herself are being captured? Clearly your castle's raising and there's a giant water moat to jump into. Or even in this scenario where the airship is barely above the ground, Mario is right there to catch her and she's not being tied back at all, yet still nothing. It's almost like she suspiciously wants to be captured. What's with these bees in Honey Hive Galaxy? For being worker bees, they're not doing much work at all. They're just flying back and forth with a bucket of honey. Honey is heavy, you say? Well yeah, maybe try and stop lugging a bucket of honey around in circles and do some useful work instead. Toy Time Galaxy is just such a weird place. Like, why is there just random giant kids' toys scattered around this area as the planets? And how come this place is enclosed inside this huge kids' playroom? Is the god of this galaxy just some giant toddler who's bad at cleaning up? Or is that how this galaxy was created in the first place? What's with the water in the Stingray galaxies? Like, why does it stay in this perfect stream here? There's no outside barriers since you can just fall off the water, so what is keeping it contained in this specific racetrack-like shape? What is with this pipe in Dreadnought Galaxy? As you can see, this planet is a total separate object, yet the pipe leads to a completely different part of the galaxy. And I don't see any pipe extensions coming out of this planet either. This pipe's like a teleporter. What's with the floors of Buoy Base Galaxy? If you try to swim into them, you'll see they're a solid object that you can't go through, but if you then go to the flip side of Buoy Base, then you just fall right through the floors. And if you try going back right after, the floors then become solid objects again. Now, I've heard of one-way mirrors, but I've never seen one-way floors like this. Just what are these bubbles made of in Mario Galaxy? They're like almost unpoppable. You can just ram yourself full speed into most solid surfaces without a problem. Or even spinning blades of a fan cause no popping at all. The only thing that can finally stop these beasts is bombs of all things just to pop a bubble. Like, damn. How come you're just given a Wonder Seed at the start of every world? Like, what's the point of wasting my time with it every time? Why not just make the level requirements one less Wonder Seed? Like, I didn't do anything. Why are you rewarding me? How does Captain Toad travel around so fast? I could see this guy exploring down in the mines here and then travel to the top of the clouds over on the other side of the map, and he'll be exploring there too. Nah, I don't buy it. One of these guys is an imposter. In the fifth world, you explore deep down in these mines to save some poplin guys. And after you do that, how do you just fly out of the mine with this flower? You had to go down all these stairs and through a massive pipe to get down in the depths, but somehow you can just fly back to the surface from all the way down here. What? The bubble power-up. Don't even get me started with this one. None of the properties here make sense. Like, how can these bubbles just go through walls for some reason? And they can't be like off the 2D plane like Mario did before, because they're still able to kill enemies, but not like the spiked enemies, of course. Okay, now we're making sense. Well, I mean, just some spike things, I guess, because others will have no effect on the bubbles? I don't even know. How come you can only play as blue or yellow Toad in this game? Like, the whole point of only having these two Toad colors in the new Super Mario Bros. Games was so the 4 characters aligned with the Super Famicom button colors. But now, there's way more than just those 4 characters, so why have 4 Yoshi colors but only 2 Toad colors then? What's the deal with Nabbit in this game? I mean, he was enemies with Mario in New Super Mario Bros. U because he stole his power-ups or whatever, but then you could play as him in New Super Luigi U, and the same thing is true here. Like, he's a part of the whole cast and everything, but I guess he's not really a part of the cast because he wasn't even invited to the opening festival and had to sneak in? I don't get his relationship with everyone else here. How are you able to grow grass and flowers on any surface in this game? Even on like wood, steel, or clay? clouds somehow. What is this magic life water that the elephant is spewing? What's with some of the physics in this game too? Like with these push blocks, for example, you can lean this thing entirely off the edge and it just kind of stays there, not affected by gravity, but if you just nudge it, then it'll get affected. And that's not even mentioning how the wheels are pretty well useless since the bottom is sliding across the ground too. As you probably know, all the characters have ledge leaning animations now, but why is it that only with the elephant suit you have a backwards ledge animation? Like, wouldn't it make more sense doing it the other way, where the characters have more animations but the power-ups are more limited? I don't know. How does this balloon just stay underwater like this? It's gotta be air or helium in this thing, right? So it should float to the surface, but instead it just kind of bobs around in the water. What is with some of the reflections on the buildings of New Donk City? Like, this building here has a reflection of a bunch of different streets, a giant park, and frankly, just a bunch of other stuff that isn't behind you. Cause when you turn around, it's a whole different setting. What's even weirder is that it looks like the reflections are too low and you're just floating above the reflected city. Mario obviously can bounce on his hat in the game as one of the main mechanics. But how does he jump on the goggles or the doctor cap, for example? You're saying he has the agility to land his feet on the tiny strap of the goggles and then somehow use that to bounce upward? Oh, and don't even get me started on how he bounced off this spinning axe prop either. The fire that Captain Toad always lights up has some pretty weird properties to it, like how it somehow always relights itself after like 2 seconds. But what I find really weird is how you still get hurt by it when in the squid capture, considering you're totally surrounded by this water bubble, yet you still get burned. How come the interior of Peach's castle doesn't match the outside at all? The outside is literally symmetrical, but then the inside is this odd trapezoid-like shape. That's not even mentioning how the balcony doesn't even have a door that leads up here. Like, what is this building? When you capture a Goomba stack, how do you move the entire stack when you're only controlling the top Goomba? Really? You should be controlling the bottom one, and then the rest would just balance on your head. Unless there's some like hive mind going on in the Goombas that I'm not aware of. I don't know. Mario's wardrobe is rather impressive in Odyssey compared to, well, every other Mario game. Only question is, how does Mario fit his entire collection of outfits into the tiniest closet that I've ever seen? He must be packing this super tightly, like when the closet is closed, it could explode at any time. What is up with the Mushroom Kingdom in this game? Like, where is this area supposed to be? A lot of other kingdoms have these big pits around them, but at least they make sense geographically, whereas Mushroom Kingdom looks like just a chunk of the earth was taken out and now it's floating over this grassy field that's way down there. You can even see the shadow of this weird floating landmass too. And also, because of this, how does Yoshi even get back home in this area? You can see that he lives up here by his fireplace on this other floating landmass since he has this sign that says he's not home. But how exactly? There's no way to reach this place from the mainland, and there's no transportation system in this kingdom either. In all the shops, you'll hear a little jingle as the shop music that's playing inside or from a radio. But then how does that same jingle play when you're on the shop that's on the back of Dory? There is no music player or radio in sight, so is like Dory over here perfectly humming the same tune? How does this Jaxi guy over here get up to the very top of the inverted pyramid? I mean, the only way up is by using this wire or by doing all the intense interior platforming sections, and don't tell me that Jaxi was able to do that either. But he is still somehow able to get up to the Jaxi stand way up here in a blink of an eye. How come there are floating objects just all over the game in every galaxy? And before you say, obviously it's because they're in space, so there's no gravity, duh. Well then, why is every other object, like the enemies or Mario, being pulled down by gravity? Some objects even seem lighter than Mario too, like these tiny particles that float around in every galaxy. But they don't get affected by gravity, while Mario does. How does Mario just turn into this tornado thing? First of all, I swear that would break all of your bones just twisting around like that. And also, if you pause this clip, you'll see that Mario somehow has grown 4 arms. Now that is cursed. This next one, I know I already mentioned in my Mario Odyssey video, but I have to repeat it again here because it is just too relevant not to include. And this is, how is Mario not able to breathe underwater, yet he can breathe in outer space? In fact, like every other character in this game can somehow breathe in space too. How does the gravity change depending on if you're grabbing onto these honeycombs? Like for example, if you run out of flight normally, you just get pulled down. But if you run out of flight while climbing the honeycombs, then you fall towards the honeycombs. What's weirder than that though, is if you're climbing, run out of flight, and then touch a normal wall, your gravity will switch and now you get pulled downward. What? Why is there all this giant food all over the game? Like, it's just sitting there floating. So does world hunger then not exist in these galaxies? Or is this some sort of giant's food that he left? There's giant bouncy chunks of meat even. And they don't even get moldy. They're good as new in fact, even with everyone walking all over them. What's with the abundance of black holes that appear all over this game? They are just everywhere in every galaxy. I don't even know how you get so close to them either. Like at this range, surely you'll get pulled into it, but somehow the planets and Mario just don't get pulled into them unless you fall off the planet. How come when you make ice on a waterfall, the ice doesn't move with the current and just, no pun intended, freezes in place? The only thing the ice is attached to is the water in this scenario. It connects to nothing else, yet it doesn't move with the water current at all. How does this ice not melt in Freeze Flame Galaxy with this burning hot magma right next to it? You can still skate on it and everything. Like, geez, how frozen is this place? This skating rink should be a puddle by now. How come some power-ups have time limits on them while others don't? It's so random as well, like this bee thing you can use forever, but the fire flower that Mario has always used for an unlimited amount of time now just randomly goes away after a while. How does Mario turn his shoes into, well, skates in an instant? Seriously, he can just somehow stop slipping and even dig into the ice. Plus, look at him, he can do twirls like he's a natural figure skater. Click the video on screen to see some things that don't make sense in Zelda, and I'll see you later.